What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode, but the first episode of Cup of Cinema. So, on this episode, on this series, we'll be talking about movies and having a cup of coffee. So, my name's Joseph, and this is my co-host,
Acacia.
Hey!
Hey!
So, tell them, what we're all about.
Yeah, so my thing is coffee, so I'm going to be brewing coffee, maybe chit-chatting a little bit about coffee, even though we already did that coffee last time, so maybe less of that. But we'll be brewing coffee, drinking, blah, blah, blah. And then you're more into cinema, film, sci-fi specifically, and horror.
Yep.
So we'll be doing half coffee, half movie, and maybe switching back and forth between me picking movie, you picking movie.
Different genres.
Unless we do with that goal in mind. Unless we do like a trilogy or something, in that case we should do like back to back to back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
So first episode of Cup of Cinema, so it's super exciting. Ooh. And the first movie we chose is 2001 Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
So 2001 Space Odyssey came out in 1968. Believe it or not, after watching that last night.
After watching it, I can believe it. Why, you don't believe it?
I don't know.
Does it seem ahead of its time?
It seems definitely ahead of its time from 1968. If you think of...
in terms of other films, yes. But I'm thinking more visually. I was like, this is from the 60s for sure.
Yeah.
Just because it's so grainy and stuff. Even though I think that was kind of the aesthetic also. But
yeah, even from the 70s though. So when I watch Alien, let's just say from 78... I don't know, watching 68's 2001 Space Odyssey, it's not too far away from what they were putting out 10 years later.
I guess I'm just thinking in terms of the quality of, I don't know how to word it, but like the quality of the visuals, there's so much going on in Alien and there's so much technology that's moving and doing things versus Space Odyssey. It was snippets to kind of show you a broader thing, but without doing that, it was doing the least work, but to get the most.
I agree with that.
They were skillful about it.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes were long. They had long scenes.
Very, very long.
Yeah.
This is my first time watching it, by the way. I've never seen it before.
I've watched it a few times when I was younger, and last night was definitely the hardest time I had watching it. I think maybe just because how we're growing as people with social media and how we all want quick pace, the slow...
It's hard to
slow
maintain
movies are a little
focus.
bit more difficult to... Yeah, that's what it is. It's a focus, right?
Yeah, it's interesting as a person who's never seen it before to watch it for the first time and try to stay engaged. But I can see how people initially were engaged and were like, wow, amazing. But it was hard. It was hard to maintain that.
It was definitely...
There weren't explosions and
no.
Pow, pow, pow.
That's where it got pretty difficult. But pretty much this... Let's see what they plot on Google is for 2021 Space Odyssey before we give our own opinions on it.
I'll get this going. Oh, really? Should we give our opinions first? Well, I don't need to talk about the coffee. We already talked about it last time. It's Hatch, Ethiopian, washed, classic. Last time I brewed it, I made it 2 week. Not substantially so, but just enough that I was like, I need to do better. So this time, I'm doing V60 instead of AeroPress, and that has nothing to do with making it stronger. I just wanted to do it a different way. I could have did AeroPress again, but just change my recipe, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a V60 and give her the old college try again. Where is my coffee? Here it is.
All right, so 2001 Space Odyssey. This is the synopsis. An imposing black structure provides a connection between the past and the future in this enigmatic adaptation of short story by revered sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke. When David Dr. Dave Bowman,
there's a lot of tongue twisters there, yeah.
Okay, so when Dr. Dave Bowman, which is the main character, and other astronauts are sent on a mysterious mission, their ship's computer system, HAL, H-A-L, begins to display increasingly strange behavior, leading up to a tense showdown between man and machine that results in a mind-bending trek through space and time. So it's a good synopsis, because that's generally what the movie is about. That's a really short description, though, because the movie itself it's a cult classic, definitely for a reason. It's got that, I don't know, it's got that oomph in a movie where it makes you
X factor.
think. No, it's one of those movies that you come out of the theater or you come out of watching it and you're thinking, you're wondering, you know, you're interested, curious, and there's lots of questions after the movie.
I come out of the movie having nothing answered. I only have questions, and it's not even like, what happened? It's just like, what?
Yeah.
For me, I'm very confused.
So to start off, here's a couple of... I took notes when I was watching the movie, and I did some little bits of research here and there. So the screenplay was written by Kubrick, and science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke, like we just said, and was inspired by Clarke's 1951 short story, The Centennial. So that's pretty interesting information. I'm interested in reading The Centennial now. I want to see what that short story is about. Yeah, I never heard it either, from 1951. But yeah, let's start with the beginning of the movie, which is Act 1, and it's actually called Dawn of Man, if you knew that.
Yeah, it starts off, for me anyway, it starts off, again, very slow. The whole movie's slow, so I guess I shouldn't really count for that every time, but it was slow. I was kind of confused because it seemed very primal and stuff, and I knew it was futuristic movie, but I was okay, they're setting the scene for the rest of the movie. And then there were these pigs or something, hogs or something, and they were coexisting with these hogs, and then the monolith showed up, and then they touched the monolith, and then they were picking up these bones of, I'm assuming, some of the deceased hogs, and started hitting and stuff, and then they were eating the hogs. So I'm okay, big brain time. That must mean they picked up they learned how to use the tool because they touched the monolith or something, and they were now killing the hogs versus coexisting with them. So that made sense. It was just it was just very interesting. It was such an artsy way of that, orchestrating that concept into a visual thing. It was so long and artsy. It was just different, but
it was very interesting. It was an interesting first act for sure, and it really does set the mood for the movie as well.
Yeah, it definitely does. It that is exactly how the whole movie goes. So it is nice that it's the same pace through the whole thing. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot.
Yeah, no. But yeah, and then see, what was interesting was I was just trying to research it because I read somewhere that, so at the beginning there's monkeys or apes or chimpanzees, whatever you want to call them, and then they're beside a water hole, and there's boar and a few other animals around this water hole, and they're all kind of living together in peace. Everything is fine. They get into a few little, arguments, but nothing big. And then a big monolith appears the following day. They all go to bed, the sun sets, the sun rises, boom, there's this big monolith just in the middle of, I guess, whatever they are, the jungle. It's not a jungle, it's not a desert, I don't know what it is.
It kind of looks like a desert, sort of.
Yeah, it's kind of deserty, but yeah, it's like a desert, water hole, a few little trees here and there, and then a big black monolith is just sitting there. And what happens is, after this monolith comes, one of the apes or monkeys or whatever touches it, and I guess what happens, it's not explained, but the intelligence is increased, right? That's what I would think is happening, is that they have a burst of intelligence, and this is what's pushing the world forward. So that monkey, or that ape now, looks at one of the bones on the floor, picks it up, and then uses it as a weapon. And then from there, kills one of the boars, and monkeys become carnivores. So, it's like a boost of intelligence, but it's also a boost in the wrong direction because, we're using our intelligence for the wrong thing, right? We're using it to gain power over others. And that's already the start of corrupt power, right? Corrupt intelligence. So that from what I was getting from that, and from what I was reading a little bit, but it says I read here the Odyssey of humankind. That would be a good definition for the movie. And then humanity is defined by its capacity for violence. So it's a very strong intro, definitely, towards where the movie is going to be going later. But another interesting thing I read about the movie is that they used real chimpanzees on set. I don't know if that's true or not.
I can see some of them being, but other ones definitely were
There
not.
yeah, exactly.
There were definitely people dressed up as monkeys on there.
That's what I was reading, was some of them were real, and then there were a few others that were actual chimps, but I'm not sure. I gotta like look that up more. But it's a cool little theory, I guess. But yeah, that's the intro of the movie, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty cool intro. From there, though, from the intro, we go into the future. Deep into the future, I think, past where we are now. I forget what year it was.
Don't know. Isn't it similar to now? Because wasn't HAL invented in 19...
Yeah, I guess, yeah, similar to now, yeah.
96 or something,
and then
in the movie?
Yeah, and then we see another monolith appears, or we get sounds of a monolith, and then 1 year later they send out the team, which is David Bowman and a guy named Poole, Poole. But yeah, and then they're in the ship called the Discovery 1. And then they're sent out on a mission to Jupiter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have anything to say?
That part was all just, I'll be honest, it was just very boring.
A lot of talking,
It was very boring during those parts.
Yeah, it is slow.
Which I hate saying, because I'm sure...
No, you know what? I agree with you.
I sound stupid, but
no, you don't sound
that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
This is what the conversation is about. Like, it's cool to see, too, like, how movies like this from the past that were so, like, cult classic and really bent the industry, like, to move forward, how we perceive them now due to all the content that we have and how quick we can have it.
But it's also like I love slow-paced movies. I love when things take their time, but this movie didn't just take its time. It was pushing everything. It was something that could have been a minute long. If you drew it out, it could be 5 minutes long, but they would make it like a half hour long, They really stretched it. And I don't know what the goal of that was, if it was like an artsy take, or they just want you to sit. They had a lot of music, so I'm wondering if they really want you to sit with the music, build up emotion and stuff. But for me, it was just like building up, like, okay.
Yeah, I felt that too, though. Like, I felt like that too.
But not in an antsy way, just like a.
No, just hurry it up, right? And I think that's just like
I know,
now, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting to watch these cult classic movies and see them, how they're being perceived now. Some of them, but yeah, through the movie, like. Poole and Bowman feel like HAL's kind of hiding something from them. They feel like they have suspicion during the mission to Jupiter. So they go into one of their pods and they're talking kind of bad about HAL, but HAL's lip reading them. They don't think that HAL can hear them, but HAL can lip read.
Because HAL's everywhere, so they're trying to avoid him listening because they have distrust in HAL. So
exactly.
But little do they know he can read their lips.
Yeah, exactly. And little do they know that HAL at the end is really not bad. He's trying to make the best decision for both parties.
It's the algorithm
which we'll get to. Yeah, exactly. But then Bowman's partner Poole gets like launched into space by HAL, so he's dead. And then Bowman tries to retrieve Poole, and he gets his limp body, and because he shot out there in one of the pods, grabbed him, brought him back, and then HAL won't let him back on the ship. So then Bowman, I guess he discards of Poole's body because you don't kind of see it after that. And
he probably doesn't discard of it.
He just throws it into space and it's gone. Like there's no point in keeping it. The guy's dead.
Oh really? I thought he would because he respects his Peter and stuff. He would probably keep. They don't show it, but he probably puts him like in a bed or something.
Maybe because it goes from like
covers him.
It goes from like him trying to get into the ship and he's got Poole's body in the machine, and then the ship's like the pod's going in the ship, and I don't remember seeing Poole's body. So I was just like, oh, maybe he's... And I also forgot about... Because there's lots of sequences that happen before he gets onto the ship after HAL tells him he can't come back on. Like he... How does he get back on? He like overrides something and the door's open and he gets back in. But yeah, I don't remember seeing Poole's body, so it's just kind of gone from there. But yeah, he gets back in and he starts taking HAL apart. He starts taking his, I guess,
his memory.
He's like
dislocating his memory from the core.
Yeah, and then there's like an iconic scene there where you see it in like a lot of TV shows and stuff now, where Hal's like I guess dying or shutting off, and he's
speaking because he's like trying to convince him to stop doing it, and then he's saying how he's scared, and then as his memory is being dislocated from the core, his memory is becoming less, so he has less brain power essentially. Yeah. So it's almost like he's taking steps back in how he's speaking, and then he starts saying, "Do you want to hear a song?" And then he starts singing that song, the Daisy or whatever, which is such a popular, iconic.
Yeah, and then
thing.
They're shown in like The Simpsons. They did it in one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes, and it was also in Disney's Recess in one of the episodes where the school gets, I think they even call it HAL 9000, and it's like the PA system in the school, but it goes rogue. It's a Halloween episode as well for Disney's Recess. Really interesting. But yeah, after that, he shuts down HAL, and then a video surfaces that Bowman sees, and it's about the true mission that was kept from the crew until they were supposed to be at Jupiter. And it's talking about how they're going to, I guess, investigate the first real transmission of outer space intelligence. So yeah, it's a pretty big mission. I'm not sure, I forget why they kept it secret from their crew. Maybe because, I don't know, it would be easier to send people out there not knowing what they're doing, like sending them with one mission, like, oh, you're just going to go and check out rocks on this planet. Meanwhile, they're really going to go see intelligent life form, and they didn't want to shake them up, or so. Yeah, that would be a pretty like
jarring thing, unless you're really convicted one side that that's something you want to do. If you don't know that.
And then this is where Hal gets compromised, though, because he's got to go with the mission directive, which is send these people to the unknown, where it could be dangerous, and his protocol or whatever is to keep people from being harmed. So
yeah, the mission is number one, but then keeping
his crew
the
is also
safe
important
is
to
also
him.
important.
Yeah.
So he kind of malfunctions between those two things, colliding, and he ends up doing the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Makes all the wrong mistakes. But that was an interesting, interesting take on HAL, because again, humans created HAL, and HAL kind of was the demise at the end too for us, especially for Poole. So and again, that's just another that's just like man picking up the bone and creating it into be violent. We've done that same with robotics and technology in some ways. So then they get Bowman sees the video, and then that they got the monolith radio emission from Jupiter. So the Discovery 1 approaches Jupiter and encounters one of the monoliths, and then Bowman is pulled into a split stream. So
this whole part was so weird.
It gets all hallucinogenic, and it looks all like a trip.
I felt like I was in a room with people who are on acid, and I'm the only one not on acid, and everyone else is experiencing this amazing epic thing, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
A trip, yeah.
Well, it just didn't make sense. There were parts, again, we talked about that were coherent and they made sense. When Hal's speaking, I can, it's such a direct thing, I can understand what's going on. But when you just have these visuals, these crazy visuals, it's more of a puzzle, and you're okay, what could be going on? They're in space, they're traveling at light speed or something.
He's getting pulled through. Yeah, which I didn't understand at the time either until I did.
But I don't even know if that is what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was just doing some reading later on, but I was confused as well. But this is why the movie is kind of interesting, though, because like you were saying, Hal's giving you full knowledge of kind of what's going on, and then you're being pulled out of pure knowledge into
nonsensical visuals, acid trip.
And then you got to think for yourself, which is something that we really don't like doing nowadays, unfortunately. But those types of movies back in the day were really, that's what kind of made them called classics, because they had a lot of mystery behind them. And people hate the mystery now, I feel, in movies. At the same time, when the mystery is put into light, let's just say the Alien movie, while we all know xenomorphs are made now, people hated that, And it's like, you know, you can't win as a director or writer sometimes because
that is true.
Everybody's so different now.
While I was watching the movie, I was like, I don't like this. But now that I'm like reflecting on it, and like I knew at the time it was a good movie, more so because everybody says it's a good movie, but it actually is a really good movie, and it's hard to sit through, but it does make you think.
It's a good conversation.
And the more you talk about it and think about it, the more it does make sense, and it's actually like very cleverly done instead of just being like, this is what's happening, like being told
exactly
this is what's happening. You're being given like snippets and like
you got to figure it out. And Kubrick said that in interviews that I was watching after it. He was saying that he's like, I don't want to tell you what the movie's about. He's like, you go home and you figure it out because there is no real explanation of what the movie is about because we're dealing with things that we don't really understand. Like, you know, alien life, there is no answer to alien life right now. We don't know. So anything that comes out about alien life at the end of the movie, you got to think of it yourself. And that's what he really did with this movie, which was really cool because again, like with a lot of alien movies now, they really just show us or give us all of it. We didn't even see an alien in this movie about aliens and alien intelligence. Not a single alien did we see. And that's, you know, it's pretty cool to not put a creature or a monster inside of a movie. It's this you know, sci-fi intense. But yeah, after he's ripped into the what's called a slipstream, he's then in a futuristic room and has aged. And then he sees a man appear in the room, and it's his older self. Now, the even older Bowman sees, like, so he sees himself. So he's already older when he enters the room, and then he's walking around. There's no one in the room. Then he turns around. There's an old man there, and then it's an older self of him. And then from there, that older Bowman sees an older self of him dying in a bed. And then that Bowman who is dying in a bed, we see his perspective of a monolith in front of him. And then inside that monolith is a fetus. And then we zoom into that fetus and it's staring at the world with like a curiosity kind of look to it. Curious and it's a floating fetus pretty much observing Earth at the end.
That part I still retrospectively didn't really care for, the really abstract thing of him being in a room, like being teleported to this room and seeing all this stuff. Again, I know it's like artsy and symbolic and stuff, but... So
like a good definition that I found online about that part of the movie was Dave was taken in by godlike entities, creatures of pure energy and intelligence. This is what the colors and hallucinations were supposed to represent. Okay. He then describes the room as a human zoo, where Dave was observed and had no sense of time. The idea for the strangely decorated room came from the way zoo enclosures attempt to mimic the wilderness, but are never completely authentic. Yeah. So he grew inside of this room that like kind of just, you know, mimics the way that us humans live.
But why was he taken in by the godlike?
That's so wait, so there's a little bit more. So that also explains Dave's often jarring shift through time, appearing to observe himself as an increasingly older man before shifting perspectives. If humanity's understanding and experience of time were just another part of a zoo enclosure, it might not work quite the same way its occupants expected. Right. And then it says, explaining the most confusing part of the ending, Kubrick said, so he said this in an interview, he is transformed into some kind of super being and sent back to Earth. And we have to only guess what happens when he goes back. This suggests that finding the Jupiter monolith allowed David to move on to the next step of human evolution. So Dave is pretty much the weapon. Like he is the new weapon of humanity. What I think, again, like we don't have all the answers to the movies, but what I'm thinking is that it's kind of like the Prometheus thing where we went in search of fire. Like we went out in search of more than we need to, and like, you know, we can't ever find the answer to our existence. And if we do, that means that we're too smart and we have to be put back into place. You know, we can't ever be smarter than God himself. So And then that's where I kind of think it stems from, where humans again are pushing ourselves to go out there and find more, and we do find more. Dave finds more, and Dave finds more because we pushed him to go find more. And because he has found more, again, he is transformed now into what Kubrick is calling a superhuman being sent back to Earth. And from what we know from past, from the past, every time we search for more intelligence and we gain more intelligence, we use that intelligence for harm rather than for good. So what's going to happen to Dave here? Is he going to come back as a superhero, or is he going to come back as a supervillain? And that's like a really cool question to ask yourself, because then that brings you into like thoughts of movies like what's that movie called? Brightburn, where they take the Superman. Yeah, we watched it, where they take Superman storyline, but they transform him into like, what if he was bad instead of good? So it's a kid who grows up and he's got kind of like Superman powers, but he, instead of like his mom and dad being truthful with who he is, they tell him, they kind of lie to him, and he finds out for himself, and then he like kind of just goes crazy and takes revenge on the world. But yeah, if Dave comes back as a person as powerful as the kid from Brightburn, the world's done. And again, we created that monster, or that weapon, by pushing ourselves to, find intelligence, and we did it in a way we shouldn't have. We lied to Bowman, right? Bowman didn't understand why he was being sent out. Hal killed his partner. Like, if I was Bowman, I wouldn't be coming to Earth as a superhero and being too happy with, my colleagues. So it does really, it's a really cool representation of, intelligence going forward, and the way we go forward and how we go about it. We always go about it in snaky ways. And again, it happened here with Bowman and his mission. It was a botched mission straight from the get-go. Like, people wanted things out of him, but they used him. And then again, we used him to go search for greater intelligence, and we found that. But Bowman is now coming back with greater intelligence.
Are the people who created the monolith using him? Because they changed him into some super being, apparently. And
see, that's the thing, is that we don't know these extraterrestrial greater intelligence that
maybe they're the same. Maybe they're the same as us.
I think they could be the same, or they're trying to see, like, okay, so we have this monolith here. How are humans going to approach this? Will they approach it the right way or the wrong way? Maybe it was a test that we always continuously fail.
I was going to say, but they already saw how we acted, or the chimps or whatever.
Years and years go by, and they try and do this test again, maybe with the monolith, and be like, okay, are they going to work together to try and figure out what this thing is? Or are they just going to, pounce on themselves once they...
I feel like if they were viewing us from an outside perspective, they would know the answer. Like, it's so plain how.
But sometimes when big things like this happen, like, it brings people together, right?
Totally.
So maybe they're hoping that, okay, we're giving this,
this
world.
This is how we fix it.
We
made it bad at the beginning,
like,
but
it could change the world. But yeah, But yeah, I think that would be like my view on 2001 Space Odyssey, is that, again, we have, every time we gain intelligence, we use it for bad instead of good, and it's the same thing happened here. We pushed David in a negative way to search for higher intelligence for ourselves, and again, we found it, Dave found it, and now he's a superhuman coming back to Earth, and you just better hope you're good to him. Because he's coming back and he's gonna be strong, and that's probably why he's, as a fetus, looking at Earth in the way he's looking at it. He's observing it, and he's curious on his next move, maybe as this fetus outside of space grows into this superhuman, and is ready, when he is ready to come back to Earth. What's his mindset going to be? He's going to have 30-40 years of thinking, so I don't know, you got to think of everything, and when he gets back to Earth, is it going to be good or bad, and on top of that, how does time work, right? So he's aged through his departure, and like, we don't know if he's sitting as a fetus in our solar system. Sorry guys, the camera cut out there, but Yeah, we were just talking about him sitting in space, and maybe by the time he's 30, if he is sitting, let's just say that he's in space. Wait, okay, wait. Because we cut out, I'm all mumbo jumbo right now. But because he's in space and he's sitting there as a fetus, let's say 30 years goes by and he becomes an adult, and he comes back to space, the people that did him harm or sent him on this mission are going to be like very old, right? So let's just say that he's sitting as a fetus, but outside of our solar system, looking down still at Earth somehow, some way. Million light years away. When he does come back to Earth, it could just be a couple of moments after his mission departure. You know what I mean? Like he's time is not working the same way. So that's another interesting fact. But I really do love the way they went with the movie. At first, again, throughout the movie, I was kind of bored. A little bit with some scenes and all that, but when the movie ended, that's where it really shined. That's where you just get a lot of questions.
It's a thought piece, and that's kind of where it shines, is at the end when you're reflecting back and discussing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where it really shines. But yeah, I just really like the monolith because I think it signifies, like, for me personally, this is my thought of the movie, where I think it signifies an intelligent life form, giving us the chance to maybe, become a better civilization, better people. So like at the beginning, it gives us the monolith as ape-like creatures, and it sees what we're going to do with a boost of intelligence, because that's what it kind of gave the ape or monkey or chimpanzee that touched that monolith. It gave them a boost of intelligence to pick up that bone and use it as a weapon to kill the boar and kill the other ape trying to drink out of the water hole. You know, it used our intelligence and then used the emotion of anger, and that's where we started to develop our intelligent traits towards, devices that we could use to either make the world a better place or make it worse, and we chose violence, like we usually do. So, and then again, we got the monolith was sent to us years and years later, like decades, hundreds of years later, to where humans exist. We were given the signs of the monolith again, and we sent a human being there pretty much like with the wrong intent. Lied to him, didn't share with him the real reason why. So, we just sent this guy there to try and find an intelligent life form out there in space. And again, we went about it the wrong way. So we created a weapon trying to find higher intelligence through Bowman. Bowman, as Kubrick said in one of his interviews, Bowman is pretty much created into a superhuman and will be sent back to Earth when he's ready. If that's the case, when Bowman gets back to Earth, I don't think he's going to be a superhero after what was done to him. So again, we just tried to search for more intelligence, and we're coming back with more violence due to the way we acted to try and gain higher intelligence. So I think that was, for me, the way the movie was played out. And I really enjoyed it. What did you think about the movie, though? Like, what was your take on the movie?
Well, I kind of said, like, when we said through each part, like, what we thought of it, like, that's kind of just what I think of it.
Yeah.
Just all those things.
No, like, what do you think that the main plot storyline was? Like, what do you, like, after watching it, like, what did you think of the movie? Did you think, like,
I see,
do you think the same as me, whereas Bowman is, like, now a weapon of mass destruction due to our,
No, I guess I'm just, like, I could see how you can dig really deep into it, and I think that's the point, but for me, my surface level perspective is just, like, as primates or whatever, they touch the monolith, they gain intelligence simply to use a tool, but that then, like, dominoes into what we are now. And then we go back to the monolith. Sorry, I'm spacing.
No, it's okay. So we got the sounds of the monolith, and then we sent our crew out there to go and see what these higher intelligence sounds were.
I just feel like it just is what it is. Like we're just people doing what people do, and that's always seeking more. And you know, everybody's trying to do what's right, but in their own way. Like the algorithm that they give Hal sort of makes him, or the coding or whatever, makes him do the right thing in different aspects. It's complete the mission so that humanity can become smarter and learn more, but also to save the people, which is also the good thing. Yeah. And that's what people are always trying to do. It is the good thing. Sometimes. And yeah, it just, you know, it doesn't work like that always. Anyway, malfunctions, whatever. David gets to the monolith, and from there on I was just very confused. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand why there was a fetus. But I know there's symbolism. It's symbolism, but I
didn't get that either till I read the Kubrick thing where he said that he's becoming a superhuman, and that's where I just I don't know, that really like connected the pieces for me, because again, he's superhuman, and a superhuman can either be like, he's a god, and this god has powers, and then these powers are going to be used for good or for bad. And again, every time we see what humans do with a higher intelligence, we use it for weaponry and violence rather than good. So then that's where the fetus coming in. That's where when I read that it was like observing Earth. You know, it has one of its eyes is really open, looking on Earth, but it looks like it's so far away, like again, a different solar system, and it's observing Earth. And that's where it gets really cool, because, you know, you wonder, like, is Bowman and his memories still in there, and like what was done to him to lead him into where he is now. Like he can never see his family.
I just feel like from my perspective, like I didn't see that. So unless I'm being told that, which I am, but like before that, I didn't see that at all. So for me, it was just, you know, I would never have guessed. I would never have guessed that some gods were taking him to this other place, to this like zoo in a room, which is a cool concept. I just wouldn't have guessed that. So in my mind, he was like, I don't know, he got sucked into like a black hole or something and died. Yeah. And then that was like all in his head, or
I really like that part too.
That was literally like not even a part of the story. That was just for us, the audience, to see this sort of moment where he is in the zoo, which is a room, and that is really what all of us are in life or something. I don't know. It feels like that's not even a part of the movie to me. It's just to mimic
the zoo experience. Like we put an animal into a zoo enclosure, and it looks like it's their habitat, but it is not. And that's where they're gonna live their dying day, is in that enclosure that looks like their home, but it really is not. And Bowman was there. He was stuck in a room that looks like a normal room for a human being, and he will spend the rest of his life in a room that mimics his surroundings. And it's crazy. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I really enjoyed the movie. What would you rate it from when you like first watched it to knowing what you know now about the movie?
Yeah, when I was watching it, and then at the end was a little on the bored side, but again, I had an appreciation for it. So I was thinking like 5 out of 10.
Okay.
And then now I would give it like a 9 out of 10 now that I've had the time to reflect on it. Again, I think part of the joy in the movie is the post-movie time that we have to discuss it. Yeah, 9 out of 10. It was good. It was really good.
And I'm the same. I'd give it a 6 after watching it immediately. I was just, you know, kind of unfocused in some scenes, but I'm huge into sci-fi, so it did catch my attention in some other scenes, especially when Kubrick uses that famous move where they do like the close-up, not really close-up on his eye, but like the main character, like they really like
the intensity, the visuals of his face and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. Thank God. But yeah, 6 out of 10. And then learning everything I've learned about the movie and really talking about it and thinking about it, like 8, 9 out of 10 for sure. The movie shines when the movie finishes.
Yeah.
That's where the movie is like, if you sit through it and you get right to the end, you will get up and be like, okay, you know what? It was a good movie. I've got lots to think about. And for that movie to come out in 1968, I think that's super impressive as well. Like, we didn't have a lot of the special effects that Kubrick had at that time. So for him to think about the ways that he went about doing the things he did is absolutely incredible. Yeah, super unique. Especially the hamster walk. that they did in the movie.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Like 1968, I don't even know how to do that like now. and he's pulling that off. 1968.
I feel like to be in the theater watching it for the first time back at that time would have just been amazing.
Mind-blowing experience.
I'm sure everybody left the theater being like, "What?"
Yeah, Kubrick definitely touched the monolith as a kid, and
yeah.
But hopefully you guys enjoyed the first episode of A Cup of Cinema. So this was our
intro
talk and whatever to our new series.
We might do one next week. We're away for a week in Montreal.
Yep.
So maybe we'll do one, but we'll see.
Yeah. Maybe we'll watch a movie in Montreal and shoot it there. Yeah. But that was 2001 Space Odyssey. Sort of like a short review and just to give our own little thing on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.